Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Texas is number one. Number one before we even get into SEC play. AP poll just coming out this week as they are the new number one team in the country, replacing the Georgia Bulldogs. We will see. Obviously, there's a lot of football left to be played, and we haven't even started conference play. But that's how impressive the Texas Longhorns have been this season, y'all. So I'm Steve. I'm here as a Texas fan. Y'all know what time it is. We gather here on Wednesday evenings to talk ball, coming off of a dominant 56-7 victory over the UTSA, and heading into another tune-up game versus Louisiana Monroe, and want to break down just a few things here this evening with y'all. And so chime in the chat. I'd love to, talk ball with you guys, here live as much as possible. But first and foremost, just and this is just real quick and reflective, because this is the first time that Texas has been the number one team in the country since 2008. And I was at the game this weekend with my wife and my friends, and I looked over at a point during this UTSA game, and it's not to say that, Jeff Traylor and those guys, they don't have a great bunch this year. Let's just be honest. It wasn't a great football team that we beat. But the way we've handled teams, the way Texas has come out with a business-like approach to start these football games, it just feels like it's matured so beautifully under Steve Sarkisian over the last 3-4 years now. So, you go back to 2021, we were getting out to hot starts. We had actually a pretty good start to the season until the OU conundrum, and we ended up losing out until the last game of the year and go 5-7, don't even make a bowl game. Hit up the portal, NIL comes out, all these different dynamics in football. We're leaving the Big 12, and the way we finished last year, the way we did last year, right? So to get to this point, this journey is it's remarkable, and I think it's a good time right now to reflect on that before we got to get to business in the SEC, starting with Mississippi State in a couple weeks. But I think it is good to reflect on where this program has come and how this program is regarded in terms of recruiting. You've had a month where you've had 3 different 5-stars commit to you, potentially a 4th one on the way, assuming that everything is on the up and up. Speaking on the up, what's up, sports fan Jack? Thanks for being in the chat. What's up? When you look at the firepower that Texas has had in the transfer portal and how those guys are playing right now, Isaiah Bond, probably his best overall game as a Texas Longhorn this past week. Matthew Golden has been just phenomenal all season with every single target that it seems that comes his way. Other guys, Silas Bolden, who has his adventures on special teams, but this element of this team and the combination of the young guys, and I talked about it a lot last week with the young guys, the veterans, and the guys in the portal, the mercenaries that have come in to either up their stock, the Andrew Makubas of the world, who have really, really helped our football team right off the bat. But as we dive into this, this Texas team, they're not just deep. What I realized too is their second team, and this is where the Arch Manning conversation begins. There's no drop off with so many of these guys. Texas, to me, is number one because they have the most position groups to where there is little to no drop off from the first team person there to the second team person there. And the more of those you have, and you're too deep, when you can go from 11 strong on offense and 11 strong on defense to 22 strong on offense and 22 strong on defense, it's remarkable the depth that Steve Sarkisian and this football program have built up. I'm going to start here with Quinn Ewers. I think Sark was definitely on program of saying, hey, let's showcase our guy. He had a big win against Michigan. We're back home. It's our first night game. We want to get him, obviously, college football, Heisman, it's a numbers game as well. You got to pad those stats against some of these teams like this and handle your business and look good. And we come out 7 straight passes, boom, 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 touchdown. Quinn looks fine. And he hits his hand on the guy's helmet, and then he throws a pick the next series. And then we come back and we get another touchdown, and then he collapses, obviously, with the abdominal injury, and in comes Arch Manning. I'm going to leave off on Quinn real quick on this note. In my opinion, I think he needs to be back by the Mississippi State game for his sake, for the things that are on the table for him individually, from a college football hardware perspective, as well as the NFL draft and NFL draft ramifications. There were several NFL teams that were in attendance at the Texas UTSA game, and several of those teams are like, hey, we are looking at Quinn as a potential top 5 pick, potential number 1 overall pick. And you guys have seen quarterback play in the NFL these first couple weeks. It's abysmal. So, a lot of these guys being looked at right now. And the big question now with Quinn is availability. Can his body hold up in a 17-game season? He's probably not going to go to a team that has nearly as good an offensive line as he has in college. And the freak injuries and the things that keep happening, those are the questions that he has to answer. So if he's able to sit a ULM game, that's really inconsequential to the whole season. He's able to come back and start Texas's first SEC game. I think that would be important for him and his stock moving forward. I'm saying this because this is going to cost him money if he continues to miss time, and you start to tally up the time that he's missed essentially every season since his sophomore year in high school at South Lake Carroll. So I think it is critical for him, health willing, especially if they're saying that, hey, the injury's not too bad and he was able to dodge a bullet. Because in the NFL, you got to play hurt. Guys play hurt in the NFL. It is what it is. Nobody's 100%. So for Quinn's sake, personally, now for the team, I think the team, Texas is in a great spot because of the depth I mentioned earlier, to where you have a superstar, oh my God, prospect in Arch Manning, who isn't even just the namesake anymore. Arch is different, y'all. Arch is different. I mean, the dude came out there and ran the zone read like Vince Young. Like, Bubba was moving, 21 miles per hour out in the open field? I was like, what? Like the guy out here looking like Mondo Duplantis, the damn pole vault guy, who was out here who can do everything. That was one of the biggest superstars of the Olympics. I mean, that's track speed that Arch was moving at, and we're talking about his legs. We ain't even talking about him throwing the football. We ain't even talking about the cerebral, the comfort of a freshman coming in there. First pass, touchdown to DeAndre Moore. Shout out to DeAndre Moore getting in the end zone for the first time. Shout out to Jonte Cook getting in the end zone 2 times on Saturday night. But we're talking about Arch as a whole different beast. Yeah, they said Arch wiping his nose after every tutty is crazy. Yo, he's affiliated, if you know what I mean. Arch is affiliated. Arch is out there moving, y'all. I had people texting me that don't even watch college football, but they plugged into pop culture. Arch is becoming a pop culture phenomenon, and that's your backup quarterback, who everybody knows. Especially, you have the marriage. The Mannings are so brilliant. You have the marriage of Arch, the genetics, the size. He's probably not going to have those concerns that Quinn Ewers has about the body, right? I mean, you look at Eli and Peyton; they're in the top 5 consecutive starts in NFL. Guys, the Manning DNA, they're indestructible, and they're all 6'5", 230, right? But this one got legs, apparently from the mom. It's like we're talking about them like they're a species. They've evolved. Okay, they've evolved. The Mannings have evolved for 2024 in the form of Arch, and namesake aside, I mean, you combine somebody with those tools, that skill set, that brain, that training, the access, the corporate knowledge that he has over from two different generations of his uncles and his grandfather, and you combine that with Steve Sarkisian. And for those of you who've been following me on Fanatic Perspective, all social platforms. But for those of you who are mainstays with me, especially on YouTube, y'all have heard me talk about Sark and the quarterback brain trust and the quarterback development program that he's run. Shit, look at Malik Murphy right now at Duke and what he's doing. Just after being in Sark's room for a couple of years, he's able to go out and run an offense. Shout out to Malik, he's 3-0 over at Duke. You look at Arch, and you combine all of that. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to get you whatever offensive lineman you need. And then wherever we fall short, by the way, I'm going to get you whatever you need out the portal. And we can leverage NIL. And another thing, I'm going to give you Ryan Wingo, who's not even fair to have on this football team. 5-star freshman out here looking like the next Andre Johnson. You got I already mentioned Isaiah Bond, who's another freaking Xavier Worthy type speed, 4.2 guy. I got Matthew Golden. I got Silas. I got Jonte Cook, former 5-star receiver. DeAndre Moore, one of the best receivers when he came out in the country. Oh, and then I got Jamie French and Khalid Lockett and potentially Michael Terry coming in. Come on now. Talk to me now. I mean, that's insane. So what we got, and while we're waiting for SEC ball to start and we get back to, the main thing being the main thing, what we're getting is so fun as Texas fans, is a glimpse of the future. And Arch and those young boys and those guys that want to play with him, that want to be a part of it. Because let's keep it all the way a buck, right? This is a business. With NIL, these super conferences, I'm glad that we're stripping away the fakeness. For everybody involved, it's a business, including myself here broadcasting, talking about this sport. This is also a business for me as well. I love it. It's my passion, but this is all of it is a business. So with that being said, why wouldn't you want to associate and tie yourself to Steve Sarkisian and Arch Manning if you're a young receiver in this country or you're an offensive lineman? They have eyeballs. They have eyeballs on them. There's no bigger platform that you could be a part of right now than the Texas Longhorn football program because of these individuals tied together. Think about it. If Jonte Cook would ball anywhere, a lot of these guys would be start. Ryan Wingo is better. I don't care what team you like. He's better than your favorite receiver for the most part, unless you got like Luther Burden or somebody. Like, these are people that Arch would be starting on pretty much all y'all's teams outside of a few veteran Heisman type guys, candidate guys. So that's what Texas is rolling into these games with not just firepower, but star power from a business perspective, from a branding perspective. Oh, and by the way, like, that's what stars do. When you get out there, first play, touchdown. Next play, next drive, 67-yard touchdown run. For all the haters out there that said if he was named Arch Smith, he'd be a fifth-star recruit. Shut the hell up. I don't know how after 3 different generations, if you claim you know ball, you could fix your mouth to say nonsense like that. And yes, I have receipts from several of you on Twitter, by the way, as well as in the comments. But that's neither here nor there. We fired up today because we out here. We're number one, Texas number 1 team in the country. Arch Manning. Now let's talk about this. He is going to be starting his first game this week against Louisiana Monroe. And I talk about glimpse of the future. This is important for several reasons. Number one, as we go into SEC play and we do have those wars, OU, Georgia, A&M at the end of the season. Kentucky's going to be a physical game. So as we get into some of these games and the questions with Quinn's health, it is the more reps Arch has, the better for insurance for our own selves in that regard with quarterback number 2. Also, for his personal development, seeing just having that litmus test right now of where he's at, having a full week of prep as a starter, a full week with the ones, a full week where Sark is putting together a game plan to showcase you. The last few games you've come in, and yeah, Sark will call plays for Arch, but for the most part, he's running a plan that's already been installed for the first team, right? So now this week, having being the guy coming out there, running out there on the field, opening drive, that adrenaline, right? Trying to get off to a good start. If you get off to a slow start against Yola, let's say he comes out there, he goes 3 and out, or he has his first turnover or something. Just the ability to actually put that out there and to see him grow. It's a benefit to Arch. It's a benefit to Texas, right? Because when he eventually does take over as the starting quarterback in 2025, this will already be ingrained in him. He'll be able to hit the ground running next season. So I am very, very excited to see how he responds. If he comes out and he's guns blazing like he's been every time he's gotten in against some of these backups. And yeah, Arch has not played football yet against, some of the, world beaters or anything like that. Last week was the first time he even took snaps against anybody's first team defense that wasn't Texas in practice or in a spring game, right? Or any type of scrimmage. So we have to keep that in mind, because some people are getting carried away to the point where, this, if you're a Texas fan, you've heard folks say, well, Quinn's job might be in jeopardy, blah, blah, blah. First off, Quinn as a prospect in his own right, if you're educated and you understand ball in this sport, you know what type of prospect Quinn was. We don't need to touch on that. But there's not one mock draft that I've seen where Quinn Ewers is not in the top 5. On top of the proficiency that he has shown over the last year and a half, and the fact that he's been a proven road warrior and gone into Tuscaloosa and beaten a Nick Saban by double-digit points. Nobody's done that at the quarterback position. Oh, yeah, and he went into Michigan and beat the national champions, who were on a 23-game home regular season win streak and a 34-game regular season win streak. That's what Quinn Ewers did. So, I'm going to quote as the great Roy Jones Jr. once said, y'all must have forgot. Y'all must have forgot, because the only thing with Quinn is the health. At this point, the command, the control, the processing, he's there. And again, I've talked about quarterbacks under Sark that have 3 years in the program. We did not go through the growing pains with Quinn and building him up and doing all that to get him to this point where he's this good now to bail on the guy. That's bad business. Okay. And not to mention, he is the best quarterback on Texas as of right now. Arch might have more potential and long-term talent, all that type of stuff. I'm not here to debate that right now. But in terms of who is the best quarterback in 2024 running Steve Sarkisian's offense, that would be Quinn Ewers. I want to make that very clear. Okay. If you want to win a national championship, if you want to win the SEC, that's going to require Quinn Ewers. Arch is dynamic and is talented and all those things that he is. He still needs some time, some seasoning. If you throw Arch out there against Georgia, that is an extreme ramp from playing against what he's played against to then just throwing somebody out there, even with the talent around him. That's a lot to ask for. All quarterbacks have to go through some aspect of growing pains and getting comfortable in their own skin in that regard. And so there's no need to rush the process. Arch will be a star at Texas. And the way the NFL looks, the Mannings can afford to be picky. Because they ain't gonna enter the draft until there's a team that they want to go to. Okay? Especially with NIL and all this other stuff in play. He will gladly stay at Texas until there's the right team out there that he wants to go to. I'm gonna say that right now. You might see Arch at Texas for 2 or 3 more years. Just because 20 years ago, they did not want Eli Manning to go to San Diego. Y'all remember that? And they threw a fit. And that boy ended up in New York. And Phillip Rivers ended up in San Diego. The rest is history. 2004. That was 20 years ago. Do not play with these folks. They will stay at Peyton stayed at Tennessee all 4 years. He could have went number 1 his junior year. for those that remember in the late 90s. So they will stand on business, no doubt about it. Do you think Wingo will be the best Texas receiver ever? He's off to one of the best starts so far. Now Worthy had the best start as a young receiver. But right now, I think, for me, number one is Roy Williams, number two is Jordan Shipley, and then there is then you got guys that I didn't see Mike Adams play, but we know how good he was. But then there's there's some drop off there. But if Wingo, these first three games for not starting and just what he's done creating plays in the open field and the size, like I said, my comp for him is Andre Johnson for myriad of reasons: the size, the fluidity, the physicality, and just how he looks when he gets the football, how he looks, attacking DBs. It just looks so natural for him. And I remember seeing that about Andre Johnson at Miami, and obviously having a Hall of Fame career for the Houston Texans. And I don't like comparing kids to Hall of Famers. Again, for those that listen to me on a regular basis, y'all know how I am with that. I'm very, very picky about, hey, don't compare so-and-so to so-and-so. I'm very, 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 very serious about that. But when it comes to Wingo and what he's capable of, yeah, I think he could be. But, Roy put up crazy numbers. And the thing is, Roy put up crazy numbers, and he didn't even play in a modern offense. He played in a pro-style scheme where we still ran the ball 60% of the time. Jordan Shipley got to play in a spread scheme, and Jordan Shipley's probably the most successful Texas receiver in terms of big games and all that. But Roy, physically dominance, winning on the outside, could play any position. Yeah, but Wingo has the ability to pass him for sure. So expectations this week, ULM, Texas is a 44.5-point favorite. It'll be interesting to see how Texas opens this football game and who plays, right? Because we've had some injuries, especially in the running back room. I do think we'll probably be throw heavy this week. Just to keep some blows off some guys and to go into SEC play with a healthy Jaden Blue, a healthy Quintravian Wisner, a healthy Jared Gibson, who looked like he kind of, had a little ankle issue last week. So, I think, again, pass game, throw game, they're going to try to get the football to as many guys as possible. They've done probably the best job I've seen from a Sark offense of spreading the football, spreading the wealth. Guys in and out. Now, what it will look like in SEC play, I do think that they will tighten up the rotation a little bit, and it'll be more of the consistent guys. But for these first three games, you're leaving stat lines with 9, 10, 11 guys that have a catch in a game, right? So that's really impressive. Wingo won't get the crazy numbers because he'll only play 3 years, but in my opinion, Wingo will be the best. Yeah, so it's not even just numbers. Yeah, you're right. It's not even just numbers. It's also just the eye test, right? Like how dominant a player was. I mean, Vince Young, in today's standards, his numbers aren't crazy, although he was the first college quarterback to ever throw for 3,000 yards and run for 1,000. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. At the D1 Power 5 level, he was the first one to do that. But when you look at Vince, his numbers overall, especially before his junior year, they weren't crazy. But if you watched him, if you were around, he was always the best player on the field for the most part for his entire career. There's a reason why he went 30-2 as a starter. And there's a reason why a lot of people feel as though he might be the best Texas Longhorn player ever, right? So regardless of statistical output. So I think Ryan Wingo is going to be one of those guys to where, because of the nature of the offense he plays in, he may not have Biletnikoff type numbers, but it won't matter because he's the best football player on the field. And he's going to be a guy, and here's what to look out for next year and the year after. A guy that takes safeties with him, double coverage, a guy that attracts what he commands from the opponent, right? So I'm right there with you, sports fan Jack. Right there with you. Good comment there. So, and one thing I have not touched on, 25 minutes into this video, the Texas defense. And I know we had a big run that we gave up last week. There's been some leaks. The defensive tackles are still the rotation, I should say. I think there's individual guys like a Vernon Broughton who are playing well. The rotations are still tightening up. Kenny Baker's, there's some in-season work they got to do there, and PK and the whole defensive brain trust. I do trust them to get that solidified through conference play because that could potentially be an issue. Let's just be honest. But through 12 quarters of football, Texas has given up 2 touchdowns. 3 games, 12 quarters, 2 touchdowns. That's crazy. That's crazy, right? Like, we gave up 7 last week. 12 to Michigan and nothing to they've given up 19 points this year. Like, y'all. This Texas defense, what they've built from a leadership and communication perspective, that is also why they look so fast. It's not just, yes, they've improved the speed. Yes, they've improved the physicality. Yes, there are fewer missed tackles. Check. But the depth is there. Also, check on the depth, right? You got guys coming in. Layfowl comes in. He's a backup middle linebacker, immediately gets a sack. Colton Bassett, backup defensive end, immediately gets a sack. Colin Simmons looking like the next Michael Parsons out there, rocking the number 11, just looking like a bona fide freaking star. He comes out there, gets a sack. And I do think probably he's putting together a case where he's probably just going to need to be a starter. I mean, that's Colin Simmons, that is. But this Texas defense, not just the speed they've added, sure, better tackling and all the things, but they know where they're going. Their comms are way better, especially in the pass game. Now, have we played any elite quarterbacks? No. Do we have some guys that that can test us? Yes. And that will be a big key. As I said last week, you will need elite quarterback play to beat Texas, but there are guys that are capable of producing that type of quarterback play so that we're not unbeatable. I'm not saying that. But it's going to require a high-level quarterback. Like what Owen McCown did last week of, playing quarterback like it's duck, duck, goose. Yeah, that's not going to cut it for you if you want to win against, where you're just running out of there, bailing out of pocket, you not allowing anything to develop because you're overwhelmed. Colin Simmons will be starting by OU, and he's going to make noise against OU because them South Dallas kids, once they get back home and they playing at the Cotton Bowl, it's time to show out. Malik Muhammad, lock up at corner. Go look at the stats. Go look at the grades. I already talked about our Central Texas Austin boys in Makuba, but Michael Taft from Westlake, Jade Barron from Pflugerville, they balling. So this collective Texas unit, and then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Anthony Hill, who has done a very, very good job at linebacker, taking over for Jalen Ford, moving into the middle, taking over those comms. He has been terrific this season. So, guys, as I wrap here, exciting time to be a Texas fan. One more week of tune-ups. Arch's first start on the way. Let me know here in the comments what you think in terms of expectations. I think Arch is going to go out there and ball. Maybe have a sluggish start out of nerves. Who knows? But if he also considering the opponent, probably another 4 or 5 touchdown game. And then we get into Mississippi State and start an SEC play. But this Texas team is loaded, and I couldn't be more excited. Why has Trey Moore been quiet? He's been quiet because, step up in competition. I think the length. Also, he's not playing as many snaps as he played at UTSA, but I think as he gets more comfortable in the rotation, he'll make noise in conference play. You have not heard the last from Trey Moore. I promise you that. Anyway, guys, I got to run. I appreciate everybody tuning into the stream. Subscribe to Fanatic Perspective on YouTube if you don't follow me on those platforms, as well as all other socials. Guys, remember, horns always up. Hook 'em.